Well, listen, I want to dive into some of the issues that you've been covering in your show in recent days. Even in just the past few days, the movement across the country seems to be taking new shapes. One that's emerged in the past, 48, 72 hours has been what this might mean for the workplace and what this might mean for the workplace for people of color. In addition to being the host of a show, you are also a boss. Has it prompted you to reconsider practices at the show or how you run your room?
Yeah, I mean, now is the time. I think what we've seen from the movement is it's the time to listen, reconsider, and grow from all these moments, and to think about everything from the writing process to the pitch process to what stories we cover on the show. And so that's something that as we're developing episodes for this cycle and future cycles, we want to sort of have that holistic approach, with the staff, with everybody that's involved with the show.
And what does that look like? Does that mean trying to find new sources for inspiration, bring new voices into the room?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, one of the biggest things that we do on the show in the pitch process is idea generation. And whether it's coming from the writers or the news producers, it's starting on the ground level of, hey, this is the story. Then we develop a take, we put together a 2-pager that sort of gets flushed out into then a full-fledged research book, which can be anywhere between like 40 to 100 pages. Then we have to distill that into, what you see on Netflix and on the internet. And so figuring out, along the way, new and innovative ways to be creative, to have different types of voices, different types of pitches, tell different types of stories. That to me is the most exciting thing, about the show. And as we continue to evolve and grow on the show, I want the stories and all that stuff to iterate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this week, as Ellie mentioned, you put out a very powerful video about the killing of George Floyd. Yeah. And we have a brief clip here to give people a little bit of a taste of what it was like. Can we please run that?
Fine, Hasan, what do you want us to do? How do you want us to support Black America? I did the little Black Instagram square. I had the tough conversation with my family. That. This fake woke we do on IG dies in a week. We can't just knock out racism. We have to help win this thing on the cards. We have to donate our money and time to Black organizations.
First of all, I have to say, I think this might be the first time we've had to bleep a curse word for a Wall Street Journal event. So we're breaking new ground here, which is good. But I pulled that for a reason, because I was very interested in your sort of calling out of Instagram activism. What were you seeing whether like in your own feed or among your peers that made you think you needed to address that? So
that piece was a little bit different than what we normally do on the show, because a lot of it came from my personal perspective and something that I felt in the moment. We have our usual Sunday drops, but I just felt compelled to talk about it because I was hearing two conversations. I'm a child of immigrants, and so a lot of people in my community are small business owners. So as soon as the movement transcended into a lot of the riots and the looting and that whole conversation that was being had in America, there were a lot of first-generation immigrant communities being like, why is this happening? Why is this happening to us? And I was privy to that just kind of through the personal private WhatsApp thread. The second thing that I was also privy to was that, sons and daughters, people like me that are beneficiaries of our parents coming here over the past 30 to 40 years, and us, kind of having model minority status, our ability to rise quickly in America. And so I really just kind of wanted to talk to my community in that way. A lot of times race in America is seen as a black-white dichotomy, and we don't know where our place in all of that is. And the civil rights legislation that was signed in 64 and 65 allowed our parents to get here. And I really needed to say that so that it resonated not only with the parental generation, which is why there's times where I was speaking in Hindi, but then also our current generation. People that work at Deloitte and Accenture that are, on the partner track at that law firm. This is how we can participate. We can provide our services to help move civil rights legislation forward because we're beneficiaries of that. And so the piece was very different in the sense that it was just a lot of my personal opinion. Whereas sometimes when we do these longer investigative deep dives, there's about 20, 22 minutes of me recapping and synthesizing stuff and then providing my take. So this was just a little bit different and just personal for me.
Were you worried that social media was giving people a pass, that they thought they were engaging on a level that actually was really quite facile or not very deep?
Yeah, for me, like the thing that I had seen before, and I was at The Daily Show at the time, what felt so different about this moment was everybody collectively, irrespective of partisanship, saying the death of George Floyd was wrong. Like, I cannot believe the clips that we pulled where Fox News, like Janine Pirro's being like, this is unequivocal murder. Go back and watch the clips of Eric Garner when Eric Garner was murdered. Even that became a partisan issue. People were trying to parse through his past, assess his character, all of those sort of things. And in the end, the cop ended up walking. I mean, sure, he lost his job, but this felt like such a different moment. And one of the things that I quickly kind of noticed through social media culture was that people are going to throw up a quick pic on the gram or something on Twitter as a sort of like a safety mechanism of like, hey, not me. I'm not one of the bad guys. Like, don't come after me. I'm with your cause. And I just felt like it was imperative in that moment to mobilize, like not only financially, but also in terms of decisions that we make personally and decisions that I'll make on the show going forward of, no, now's the time we should change. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's back Black organizations that are fighting on the front lines. Let's do that first. Let's then provide our services. Let's actively participate so we can all help this situation. Because I've never seen a mass mobilization like this in my life.
No, absolutely. And also to your point about the Janine Pirro's of the world approaching this situation differently, I think the Roger Goodell statement is also fascinating to look at where the NFL was 2 years ago when Colin Kaepernick's protests first started and where they are now. It's hard to diagnose as to why something might change in that respect, but what do you think? Is it just the cumulative effect of these situations or something specific about this moment?
I mean, I'll talk about it from a very sort of legislative perspective. When the case got levied up to Keith Ellison, who is a Black Muslim member of Congress, it quickly, the stakes of this case, immediately became one of those things where, this thing could go the distance. They could prosecute, charge, and send these 4 people to prison. This really did serve as a sort of a critical moment. And I think it was the collective action that people not only were marching, but, people were really saying, no more. And it was nationwide and then worldwide. What really touched me, I saw people in Syria. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, but they were making George Floyd murals. And the dark joke that I had that I was riffing with Prashant was, there's parts of Syria that don't have a functioning government. And even people in Syria were like, this is inhumane. And so, like, as dark as that is, to me, it felt like this global movement. And I'm looking at this moment in an optimistic way,
Well, because